Who are you working with here?
Coach Justin Stuckey.
Justin Stuckey. You're an Auburn boy?
Yes, sir. Auburn
Good for
man.
you. Leroy Burrell?
Yes, sir.
This wouldn't be happening without Leroy Burrell, though. He's my guy.
I appreciate Coach.
Y'all got the trifecta up in here.
Yeah, I had to bring it on the plane ride today.
That's good. Did you fly this morning?
Yes, sir. I'm glad nothing got canceled.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it because you all cap like.
Welcome back to the Stuck in My Thoughts podcast. It's the place you want to be to hear a one-of-a-kind POV. As always, I'm your host, Justin Stuckey, and today's point of view comes from a true leader of men, a basketball savant. He surpassed over 800 wins in his career. Let's welcome to the show the head coach of Houston men's basketball, Coach Kelvin Sampson.
Good to be on with you, Justin. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Burrell for getting this set up, and I was so excited to get down here. Like I said, I'm glad my flight didn't get canceled, but as I was preparing for this, I got to do a deep dive into your history and your upbringing. And so just to get things started, what was it like being brought up as a son of a high school basketball coach and a nurse in North Carolina?
I had three sisters, older sister, younger sister, and a twin sister. So we were really close growing up. I didn't learn what latchkey kids were till later because I don't think that terminology would have been used back in the early 60s. Growing up, my mom worked long shifts. My dad, high school coach, and back then they had 9-month contracts. So every summer for 3 months, he had to go make money, provide for his family. And he taught driver's ed, sold Lincoln Life Insurance, World Book encyclopedias, and he worked at a tobacco market in Lumberton from July until mid-August. And then he would go back to school and he'd get his first paycheck in September. But I had a great upbringing. You know, when you don't have much, you don't know that you don't know what else there is. You know, you see other kids have stuff, but I never longed for it or felt like I wanted it or needed it because I was happy with what I had. You know, I had three great sisters, and my mom eventually became a private doctor, nurse. She was an RN, so that allowed her not to work 7 to 7 or 8 to 8, and you know we didn't get to see her much. But I was lucky to have the mother and father that I did because they grew us. They raised us to focus on our ambition and not our limitations, and that's something I've tried to pay forward as I've gone through my career.
At what point in life did you realize how much sacrificing they were making for you guys to be able to do what you did?
Well, we never took family vacations because they were always working, and you know, when you have 4 kids all about the same age, you know, that's expensive.
Yeah.
For the pay they were making back then. But, you know, vacation for us is going to our grandmother's house every Sunday. I look forward to that. I wouldn't have traded a trip to Disney World. Maybe not. But you get to see all your cousins and, you know, your uncles and your aunts and, you know, holidays in the summer like 4th of July. We'd have homecomings, family homecomings, and everybody would bring that great soul food, Southern cooking, and you know, I remember those moments as, and we were rooted in family and looking out for each other. My mom had 6 brothers and sisters. My dad had 6 brothers and sisters, so we had a lot of family. And some of them lived away, and when they came home, I knew we'd all be getting together and, you know, be a lot of playing and food and good times. So I had a great childhood.
You mentioned your father, and anybody I've talked to in preparation for this or any research I've done, he's always been brought up in a significant manner. And I liked this story because it shows that we aren't so far from history, and your father driving out the KKK back in the day. Seeing your father have that fearlessness throughout his life, how are you able to use that or see him use that fearlessness in how you approach every situation in life?
Yeah, so obviously that happened early. I think I was 3 or 4 years old when that happened. But there's certain things with kinfolk that's passed along through the generations. Racism, when you grew up in segregation, racism was real. It's not something you read about, it's something you lived. I lived it. There's places we couldn't go. It was white only. This was in early 60s. This is before the Civil Rights Movement. This is before John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson passed the Civil Rights Bill. So we had all that upheaval in the country. Riots in Detroit, Chicago, Martin Luther King March in Selma. You can go down the list. But I was raised in the South, in North Carolina. I didn't know anything else. That tobacco market where my dad worked had 3 water fountains, white, colored, and other. Had 3 bathrooms, white, colored, and other. It wasn't a big deal. That's the way it was. If I'd have went up there and, everybody kind of stayed with your own race back then. And then when I got older, one of the people that really inspired me was Thurgood Marshall. So I majored in political science. Later, I got a double major in health and physical education. I wanted to be an attorney at the time, and I wanted to go help the oppressed, defend the innocent against oppression and injustice, and that always rang true with me. And then when you couple that with the KKK stories and what was happening in our area at the time, or Alabama, or Georgia, or Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, it was tough for our parents because they had the brunt of it. When you're younger, your parents shelter you from those things. But I would see it and I remember it. But I think our family used it, as most families where we were from, I think we used it to get closer together and close ranks. And I could tell you some other stories, but I think all of your experiences that you have over life, whether they're good or bad, shape you into the person that you have. So every experience I had, whether it was good or bad, I appreciate them all.
When you're oppressed and have a certain group of people looking at you a certain type of way, is there any resentment?
I didn't know any different. So had I was raised in a society where that was never there, and then I experienced it, I would have seen the difference. But when you're raised with it, that was just an assumption. My father was a foreman of a tobacco crew. Back then they'd have rows and rows and rows of tobacco that was ready for the sale. All tobacco companies in North Carolina and Virginia would follow the sales, and Winston-Salem cigarettes, chewing tobacco, cigars, whatever, all the companies, and that's how they would get their product. And that's where we worked, in those hot tin roof tobacco markets where there might be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,400 250-pound sheets lined up from one side to the other, end to end. And our job was to match the ticket with the buyer, put them on top of each other and push them to the door, and they would take them to their plants to process them, the tobacco. But, you get talked down to. People scold you. I saw him do this. I saw him scold my father because one of his workers didn't have the right tag with the right tag. So he'd bring us together and said, we can't make these mistakes or we're going to get replaced. So I saw that, but that wasn't the first time. It wasn't the last time. But we outlasted it.
Yes, sir. I love to hear that, just your perspective and story on it. But you mentioned trying to be an attorney. How does an aspiring attorney end up being a basketball coach?
I'll give some credit for that to my twin sister. She majored in, she graduated from, I had 2 sisters graduate from the University of North Carolina. And she was a pharmacy student. She got her degree in pharmacy. I think she majored in something called inorganic chemistry. She was always the smart one.
Yeah.
But she had to go to get into the school that she was applying for after her undergrad. She had to take the GRE. But if you're a minority student, you get to take those tests for free. So I was in Pembroke, North Carolina, which is about 2 hours away from Chapel Hill. And she said, why don't you come up here this weekend? I was playing baseball, and we had a rain out. So why don't you come here and take that test with me? Because you may need it. That's family looking out for family. So I went up there and took it. Next thing you know, I don't have no idea what I scored, but I started getting letters from all these schools. But that was the start of affirmative action. And all of a sudden, these schools are trying to get color, for lack of a better term, on their campus and with their faculty. And this was 1972, 1973. So things were changing. And so I went from wanting to go to law school to wind up on academic scholarship at Michigan State University. So I went to East Lansing for 2 years and got my master's degree and got married. And next thing you know, I'm in Montana. I didn't even know where Montana was.
I still don't know where it's at. I'm a Southern boy.
Yeah. But my wife is way smarter than I am. She got an atlas down. We didn't have phones or Googles. You know, we had atlas and we had encyclopedias. That's all we had. So she got an atlas down and she looked at the United States map and she saw where Butte, Montana was, and it had a black star. And I said, what does that mean? She says it has a U-Haul drop. So we can rent a U-Haul, put everything in it, and drop it off in Butte. I said, that's why I married somebody smarter than me.
Yeah, yes, sir. You got to Montana State when you were around my age.
Montana Tech.
Montana Tech.
Yeah.
Sorry, Montana Tech.
No worries.
When you were around my age. And I've heard you say at the time, when you got in, you felt like so many other people knew more than you. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of times that term is known as imposter syndrome. How did you overcome that?
Just being driven, wanting to succeed. Montana Tech, I mean, if it had been a good job, they would have never hired me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't qualified. I was 1 year removed from being an assistant coach for the JV team at Michigan State and being a grad assistant. So I never had a head coaching job. But I went out there as an assistant, and the head coach left and his family in, I think, December. And then the athletic director asked me would I like to coach a team for the rest of the season. Didn't have another job, so I said yes. I think we were making $11,000 a year, but we were living rent-free in an apartment because we would clean all the apartments when people would move out. So that first year I got a real education because there were some really, really good coaches. I was only 25, and most of them were their late 40s, early 50s. You know, they were well established in their careers, and I could see the difference in their teams and our teams. And our teams didn't look like their teams, and I knew it got so bad one night. I apologized to the team for not being a better coach, but I said I'm gonna get better. And so the next year we won the league championship. Mm-hmm. But I also learned the importance of recruiting. We won the league championship. Sure, I was a better coach, but it's because we had better players. I figured that one out quick.
Yeah, when you're a coach, and I know you do a lot of self-evaluation, how do you continue to make sure that you're calling out when you're not good enough, but also not killing your confidence when you're first getting into it?
Well, everybody has a comfort zone, but you don't get better in your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone. That's where progress is. And over the years, you learn the difference in perfection. Basketball is an imperfect game, but we're always striving for perfection. But instead of that, you realize it's not that either. It's progress. How do you make progress? I don't define our team, especially early in the season, on wins and losses. I look at what kind of wisdom are we gaining? What kind of lessons are we learning? through this experience. Like we had a game last night, and of the 3 games we played, first game we played was the ball, whatever it was. I mean, first game, got nothing to compare it to. But we're a little bit better the second game, not much, but some. Now last night, I thought we took a step up and played much better. So that intrinsically, it tells the players that they're moving in the right direction. And then for the coaches, it's now challenging them to continue to get better in the areas we need to get better at. So I think most coaches that are successful understand the journey of a season, where it starts and where it ends, whereas most fans and media focus on destinations. It's all about the journey. Mm. It's the fight. It's the getting knocked down and getting up. This player, all of a sudden, through his work and determination and will, going from being this player where he was September and October to this player in January and February, now he's impacting winning at a high level. And this player maybe got injured and lost his confidence, but you're always fighting the Bears and the Wolves and the Tigers and the Bobcats as a coach when nobody's around. And then to come game, everybody's scrutinizing you and watching the game and reporting on it. But it's those journeys and battles, the battles you lose, the battles you win, that makes coaching at this level, that's what makes it fun for me.
You have a quote that goes, "Work like an assistant coach, but think like a head coach." How can that be applied both on and also off the basketball court?
Well, I think I've had 10 or 11 assistant coaches over the years that went on to become Division I head coaches. And so it's not just developing your players, but it's also developing those coaches, because I want them all to leave here. When I was a young assistant coach, wasn't my desire to be the assistant coach at Montana Tech for the rest of my career. I wanted to learn and move up and conquer new horizons and climb another mountain and climb another mountain, just see what was on the other side. You're driven. And so when I look at my assistant coaches, I try to do for them what I would have wanted someone to do for me. Help me reach my goal. I'm here working hard for you. And these assistant coaches don't work for the school. They work for the head coach. It's like kids today don't choose schools. They choose coaching staffs. So we've had 2 assistant coaches become Division I head coaches since we've been here. Alvin Brooks at Lamar and Quantas White at the University of Louisiana in Lafayette. But as an assistant coach, you don't have hours. You just have time. And time can be your ally or it can be your opponent, depending on how driven you are. But I think the head coach is the only person that can establish the culture in a program. Can't be established by the strength coach. Can't be established by the assistant coaches. If there's one thing that I would hope that I've taught my assistant coaches is you have to establish the culture. So work like an assistant coach, but I want you to think like a head coach. What would I do? When I get this opportunity, how would I handle this? And that's where a head coach thinks.
You get an opportunity to be around Magic Johnson at your time at Michigan State. Is it true that he didn't miss a shot in those shooting drills?
Well, it's layup drills.
Layup drills, okay.
It's called daily dust, and there was underhand right hand, overhand right hand, reverse with the right hand, hook shot down the middle of the lane. We call it the jump stop at the block off the glass, and then a Euro step. But you have to do them right-handed and left-handed, which is why it's called dozen, 6 on the right, 6 on the left. And I've never seen anybody not miss shots. Now, we've had kids over the years here that would go 5 or 6, and we always do it the day of the game. Mm-hmm. We always have 4 or 5 guys that never miss, but at some point they're going to miss. Magic never missed.
Man, great players like him. What is a commonality that you see in all great players? What's that 1 or 2 things that each of them all possess?
I think curiosity and opportunity. You know, my career is, in no uncertain terms, just about over. I've run my race. But I remember my race started when I was 25, and now I'm 70. So that was, 45 years ago. So for the last 45 years, I've run my race. And wherever I went, I always tried to push the envelope or raise the bar. And by doing that, I was able to raise the people around me. And I think that's the most successful people, whether it's in the media, business, education, whatever you're in, there's always somebody in there that works tirelessly and selflessly for the most important thing, and that's the program. I'm not the most important part of our program, and neither is the players. Players come and go. I'm on my 12th team. I've had 12 teams. They're all different. I've remained the same as a person, but I'm not the same as a coach. My consistency has helped. They know what to expect every day. They don't know whether I'm here or here, my energy's here or here. It's the consistency of your energy every day that will wear off on them eventually. But the thing that drives you is the competition. Somebody's going to win or lose. At the end of the day, that and the ability to impact people's lives are the two things that's kept me in this for this long.
When you start out, you're super hungry. People use the term motivation. I had a chance to be a really high-level track and field athlete in college, and I couldn't stand the word motivation. And when I was doing my research on you, you got a chance to be up under Tubby Smith, and you're driving 30-plus miles, 5 in the morning. You're super motivated at that point. But when that motivation starts to dwindle out, how do you stay disciplined to continue that path?
The main thing has always been the main thing. I think your biggest enemy as you're growing, as you're moving in your profession, will always be your ego. Because now you're fighting two things. You become an enemy too, not to mention the people that you're trying to beat. My biggest advice for young people is don't take yourself too serious. If you weren't here, whatever you're trying to do, they'd have somebody else doing it. That person will probably be just as good or better. So appreciate where you are. Appreciate your opportunity, and treat it singularly. This is my opportunity. I'm gonna do everything I can to make everybody around me better. If you approach things that way, and then when things go good for you, give other people the credit. Things don't go well, quickly take the responsibility and be accountable. Those are the things that allow you to grow, because somebody's always watching you. So when I was a head coach, my first head coaching job in 1981, 81, whatever year that was now, my father was inducted into the North Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame. He was an outstanding coach. His greatest strength was his ability to do more with less. So there was probably 5 or 6 coaches every year inducted into the Coaches Hall of Fame in North Carolina. The year he went in, one of the high school coaches' best player was Dominique Wilkins at Little Washington High School. Another one of the guys was coach at Shelby Crest High School. His best player was David Thompson, who was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So my dad didn't have a player like that. But his teams always overachieved. They're always better than people thought they would be, because he knew how to put in a system, get everybody disciplined. So we were together. We were kind of like that movie 300. We never had the resources and the great players that other teams have. But we always played as a team, and he won a lot of games that way, taking kids in the country community that every summer they had to go work. But when they come back in the fall, I think my junior, senior year, my junior year, I was a quarterback on our high school football team that won 7 games, which was a record at the time, but we only had 26 players on the team.
Oh.
And then in basketball, we only had about 6 guys that were good enough to play. We were really good in baseball, but we always had great coaches. We had outstanding basketball coaches, football and baseball, that always taught us that the whole was more important than the parts. They focused on the team aspect. And now that as I've gone through my career now, looking back, it's probably where I developed my sense of how I want my teams to look, because I had great role models early on.
You have continued to mention your father throughout this sit down. Was there a conversation between you and your father that ultimately got you back into college coaching?
Well, I was coaching the Houston Rockets. At the time, I was the head coach because Kevin McHale, who I worked with for 3 years, he had an awful year. His daughter died in Australia. She was an exchange student. Then his mother got sick and she passed away. And while he had to leave the team to go deal with those tragic issues, I was the head coach. So we're in Los Angeles on this one trip, and I've had the same agent forever. And we were getting ready to play the Lakers the next night. You know, I think we'd already played Phoenix or Denver on this road trip. And so we were practicing at UCLA. I come back to my hotel. But by this point in time, my dad was an invalid. Last 3 or 4 or 5 years of his life, he couldn't walk. So he had a hospital bed in the living room. My mother took care of him. Because she was a former nurse, she knew how to take care of him and do all that stuff. And she always had somebody to help her. But I called him to tell him, and I said, "Hey, Dad, my agent called me today. This school. You know, they'd like for me to come coach their team." And he took the opportunity to tell me that he thought that that's what I was meant to do, that I should really seriously think about going to college, because he thought I could impact lives in a better way in college than the NBA. So that got me to thinking about it. And then the next day, he passed away. So I had to go back for his funeral and do all that stuff. My mother died on January 11th, and my father died on February 18th, 5 years apart. That happens more than you think. When one partner leaves, the other one, you know, leaves right behind them. That was in 2014. That happened to be my first year here. So I took this job in April of 2014. Now we're in November of 2025, and it's the best decision I ever made.
I love to hear that story. You have all the championships, all the banners outside, but when you first got here, it wasn't like that at all. And in order to be successful, you mentioned you have to have a group of people supporting you. How did you get the institution to back you when it wasn't really known at that point in time for a successful basketball?
No, the apathy here was palpable. You know, the legendary coaches were long gone. Guy V. Lewis, Hall of Famer, author of Phi Slamma Jamma, Coach Bill Yeoman, all the great success those guys had. That was in the early to mid 80s. Well, Coach Lewis had great success from Elvin Hayes, the late 60s to the mid 80s. But since then to 2014, they were kind of a house that had been ignored, and then it became dilapidated. While other schools went forward with facilities and marketing and promotions and things, we were dormant. You know, we became a field where everybody threw the empty cans and the bottles, and trash blew up against the fence, and you know, it was just a place where it was just ignored for a long, long time. Really, the thing they were good at was firing coaches. So when I was doing my research, I noticed that the last 16 years they had 4 coaches. So every 4 years they fired a coach. So they fired the one before me. Now they were going to bring me in. But I had one advantage in that I didn't call them; they called me. And so if we're going to do this, here's what I need. Now, they had never won in the administration I was with then had never won in basketball, so there wasn't a lot of relative conversations. You know, they were budget conscious, where I was championship conscious. You can't win championships at this budget. You know, we'd never chartered before. We'd never had a meal service for the players. They just ate in the dorms like any other students. We didn't have a dedicated strength coach. The one we had worked with five other sports or four other sports. So, but I'd come from championship teams, whether it was at Montana Tech or Oklahoma. We'd won championships. We'd won 4 in the Big 12 even. So, but the biggest thing was getting them to align with where I wanted the program to be, and that was very difficult because there wasn't a lot. We didn't have a lot in common, but sometimes, you know, life is like the battle between the river and the rock. The river always wins, and I knew at that time I had to overcome what we weren't doing and be the river, and so the river won.
I like that. When you look at what you've been able to do in your tenure here, many people consider it success, but how would you define what success is?
Well, you can look at it different ways. I don't think I would be coaching today if it not for my son and my daughter being here. You know, most people don't know what they don't know. But because we live in a world where everybody's allowed to give your opinion, whether it's stupid or not, they still do it.
Yeah.
Because you have a platform. So there's a lot of calls for nepotism when I wanted to hire my son and daughter. So I just chalked it up. You don't know what you don't know. You'll see. My son's the coach in waiting, associate head coach. He's turned down many head coaching opportunities to be the head coach here one day. My daughter, everything you see in this building that you see has her fingerprints on it. Her mind's constantly working for ways to keep this program relevant 12 months a year, whether it's through Instagram or this or this or this. She's always working. When I lose an assistant coach, I'm going to replace him usually from within. Mm-hmm. Very rarely do I go outside our family. But if I lost Lauren, I wouldn't know what to do. There is not another Lauren. Other schools hire coaches in that spot. I didn't hire a coach. I hired somebody that would be dedicated to making this program relevant 12 months a year, deal with families, be a conduit between me and the administration. And I cannot imagine that for us being at this level. And she does most of her things in anonymity. Nobody knows about it. And but her and Kellen, because of their expertise, not because they're my son and daughter, because they're the best. I think Kellen's the best assistant coach in America. I think Lauren's the best at her job in the country. So when we have success, I get way too much credit for the success. I would pass it along to all the guys here. You know, Hollis Price has been with me for going on 12 years. One of the best players I ever coached at Oklahoma. Casey Beer's been with me for 12 years. He and I worked together with the Canadian senior national team in Toronto. So we've always had a great staff, and I give our staff a lot of credit.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask, how do you keep a tunnel vision when people throw nepotism out? We're in a world that, like you said, throws an opinion here and there. So it's good to hear that you can kind of say you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really impactful.
Well, one of the things, and you'll get there, you're not there yet in your career because you're just starting, but as you get older and older and older, it's important to get here someday. And when you get here, you'll know it. You'll get to the point where you don't really care what other people think or say. You got to get there. Mm-hmm. I've been there for a long time. So I do things independent of what other people's opinions are. I don't let other people influence me in what I do. And I need to talk to somebody. It's usually going to be my staff. So, but I'm at a school where the administration don't bother me. I'm the CEO of this program. And I thank them President Couture. I'm on my 4th AD. This one's name is Eddie Nunez. But, you know, when the new ADs come in, they want to know what can they do to help. I said, we don't need to meet. Just support us in the things we do. And if you don't have a coach that you can do that with, you need to go find one that you can. Because coaches know what the program needs. You know, you have to have people you trust. So I'm appreciative of being at a school where I'm allowed to make all the decisions along with my staff for this program.
At what point did you stop caring what people thought?
It's been a long time, but not as much as now. Probably the last 10, 15, 20 years. But you got to get there. It's an amazing freedom to do things where you don't have to stick your finger in the wind to see which way is the wind blowing like politicians. You know, they support whatever they think is most popular. Whereas a coach, you have to do what's best for the program. But you got to understand the difference in making the right decision and making the wrong decision. And then sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Yeah. I always say the failures make the successes. And I asked you what your definition of success was. What's your view on failure?
Most important thing in life. Can't succeed without it. First step on the ladder to success is always going to be failure. But you got to be strong enough to handle it. Thing I've noticed about young men, the more immature they are, the harder it is for them to handle it. You know, kids that want for nothing usually aren't hungry for enough things. And when things don't go their way because of the way they've been brought up, they have a hard time handling the failure. And I tell them all, right here in this room, the Sunday night before summer school starts in June, I have the entire team sitting right here. I said, the one thing you all have in common right now is failure. Everybody in this room has failed. The failure is not what kills you. It's your reaction to it, how you look at it. Immature guys are going to be embarrassed and blame others. Mature guys will say, okay, I made a mistake. I'm not going to make that one anymore. I'm going to learn from it. So the latter are the guys that push on. Life is full of failures. And not everybody has the ability to get up and fight back. But I think that's how you determine your success in life, is how you handled your failures.
I spoke with 2 people as I was preparing to sit down with you, and I have 2 quotes from those conversations. The first one is, what makes him great is he really connects with his players, undoubtedly and all in on your development. Genuine, not fake. That came from Coach Burrell. And the second one says, one thing about Kelvin, he's a loyal, true friend. He's the real deal, tough as nails, but a huge heart. And that came from Jay Billis. Loyalty seems like a commonality in those. Where does it come from? Why are you so loyal to not only your players, but your staff and everybody in this building?
I think it starts with being humble, and knowing that, 10, 15 years from now, nobody's going to ever remember me, so I don't take myself serious. There'll be another coach here, and there'll be another coach after him. So here and now, I'm the coach. The other thing is this about players. I don't have to be their life, but they are my life. They're why I'm here. I'm not here coaching basketball. I'm here coaching young men and trying to help them become men later in life. That's part of my charge. And I've always taken that serious. I know the impact my father had on the kids in that community. Years later, when my early heroes was his players, I saw how they treated him 20, 30 years later. And that always stayed with me, was how much they loved him. So my players, I make them understand that I'm in it for you, and then I show them. I think the more you tell players about how you're in it for them, it kind of loses its luster. You're going to be judged by your actions at the end of the day. Most guys talk a good game and really deliver nothing. And a lot of guys don't say a whole lot, and those are the ones that are the most impactful because they show you with their actions.
2 moments that have stuck out to me as I've been far and just watching you, when you comforted Khalif Battle after you guys beat them, and then on the senior day, the emotions that you showed. And you talked about how your father impacted those players. How much have the players impacted you?
I learn a lot every year from them. I think when you come from a standpoint of humility, you're able to learn. When you think you know it all, you're not trying to learn. I'm still learning, even at 70 years old. That's why I don't make practice plans until the day of practice. Because I may have learned something yesterday that I can use the next day that will help this group of kids. Or we had a game last night, and when I watch the game, I make notes. Then I come in and we discuss them as a staff, and I said, what do you guys think about this? And so now I'm learning from my staff. So I'm constantly in a learning mode. And because I'm getting new ideas and fresh ideas, I have one assistant coach that puts on an iPad the top 5 ATO plays from the night before in the NBA. So I'm learning now from the NBA. I see other coaches that are great at stuff, and sometimes I steal their stuff. Mm-hmm. So you're always learning, but I don't think you can be a good learner unless you're really humble.
Love that. I saw, I guess maybe a month or so ago, you and Coach Prime greeted each other on the field, and you guys are very similar to me in the aspect of you don't talk to your players just about what they do in their field. Him on the field, you guys on the court. You talk to them about life after ball, when that ball stops bouncing, saving money, making sure that they're taking care of themselves after they're an athlete. Where did you find that perspective, and why is that so important to be able to get across to these athletes?
Well, the money thing came from the NBA. Because when you get most of those guys, when they get their contracts, they spend their money on things they don't really need, but they really want. But our guys that are playing over in Europe's never going to have that kind of money. So I told them, I said, figure out how you can live on 35% of your salary, and then save the rest, and be frugal, because your career is going to end. You're a bad injury away from it all being over. And when it's over, what are you going to have? It's like with NIL today. I can't make them do anything with their money. They all have agents, they have parents. But the same thing with them is saving their money. You know, I didn't grow up with money. And then when I started making a bunch of money, I didn't change, you know, because my wife and I will leave everything we have for somebody else, our family, one day. I think the way you're raised about material things, and if you didn't have it, some people just want to spend money on it because I never had it. And I thank my mother and father for this. Money has never driven me. You know, we all make big salaries at this level of college basketball, but that's the market and the money that you're helping generate for the university, and more specifically, the athletic department. That doesn't mean you have to change. You know, money hasn't impacted my life whatsoever, other than, you know, my wife wants to get this or this, and she doesn't ask me anyway. She'll do something. I said, when we get that? Oh, 3 years ago. I hadn't even noticed it. Yeah. But I dedicate my life to my family, to the kids that I coach, to the friends I'm fortunate have accrued over the years, and that's about it. You know, I'm a simple man. I don't have any wild and crazy aspirations to be a pilot or go see this or see that. I'm living my bucket list every day.
Right. I need a little bit of advice. You mentioned your wife. You guys have been married almost 50 years. I'm a single brother. So when that time comes, what is the key to success of a long-lasting marriage?
Know when to say what you feel and know when to react. There's wars and battles. Arguments are battles. You're going to lose some of those. Just make sure that the war is what you're after.
Gotcha.
So it's important. Don't try to win all them battles, man. I've thrown the white flag in a lot of nights just so we can get to the next day, because the next day is going to be a different day. Mm-hmm. We'll have a different perspective, but you got to be man enough to do it.
Gotcha. I'm gonna take that advice.
Yeah.
Coach, the name of the show is called Stuck in My Thoughts, and I ask everybody that sits down with me, what do you get stuck in your thoughts about?
Mostly my grandkids. You know, my granddaughter right now is into this thing with the Descendants. It's a series of dolls. You got Joe, Carlos, Mao, and what's the other one's name? So there's one that she didn't have, and so she'll FaceTime me, and I said, Papa, can you get me Audrey? Whatever I'm doing, that thing's being put to the side. I'm gonna go get Audrey. So today after practice, I've got my wife set me up with an Amazon account.
Okay.
Probably spend more with that but most of them are my grandkids. So I'm gonna go take. I got Audrey for my granddaughter, and I got a bunch of Paw Patrol stuff for my grandson. He's just a little boy. Yeah. So I get stuck in my thoughts about them and them growing up, and been anxious to see what they become in their lives. And but mostly is gratitude. When you get old, you're full of gratitude, and you're grateful for the friends you have. This has never been a job to me because I love coaching, and I've been lucky to be able to do this every day. And then, you know, nothing lasts forever. It's, you know, everybody moves on. But grateful to have had this opportunity.
Coach, and I'm grateful for you sitting down with me today. Who should come on the show next? As
far as your next guest?
Yeah, who do you think should come on the show? In your network, who should come on the show next?
Probably my son.
Okay.
He probably should. He's the one that's going to lead this thing further and do way better than I did. At least I hope he does.
Hey, you said he's the best assistant coach in the country.
No question.
Excited for what he does next. Coach, appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting down.
Thank you, Justin. Good luck to you, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Justin.
Nice to meet you.
You're going to be good at this, man.
Thank you.
I've never been able to define it, but you have it. That's a good thing.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah.